Max Verstappen is now a Formula One world champion, but under the most controversial circumstances. So over the weekend we had the season finale in Abu Dhabi, and the reason why it's taken me so long just to upload a race review is because of the amount of news that is still coming out even after the Grand Prix has finished. I just wanted to allow myself to process on what was going on and look at other people's videos to help me form an opinion of what happened during that day. Now I'm planning of making the whole Mercedes appeal situation its own video, as it is still an ongoing thing, but I will mention it in this video. Now this is going to be a very controversial take on the race. I personally enjoyed it. I think, it was exciting. It was good to watch, and perhaps one of the best Abu Dhabi GPs we've had in a long time. But that doesn't undermine the poor management of what the FIA did during that race with the whole safety car debacle. And I think this reflects on how bad the FIA have been really, poor with managing stuff this season. Like take Belgium for example. Like Formula One fans and myself had to wait 4 hours just for the race not to happen. Like I was very disappointed that day, and they didn't even give people refunds for the ticket. That was quite a bad move by them. And going into this weekend, I thought the most controversial thing to happen would be Max and Lewis crashing into each other. Instead, it wasn't. It was the whole FIA and the stewards and how badly they managed the whole thing with the whole safety car. And there's a lot of debate going online saying, oh, the FIA did it on purpose to give Max Verstappen the title. I've kind of got a different opinion. I think what they wanted to do was to make an exciting last lap. And I've been looking at people's videos online. Like I saw David Croft's interview. He's saying he knows Michael Massey personally, and I think what he's saying is true, because before Michael Massey stepped in as the race director, there was a guy called Charlie Whiting who helped manage the Formula One races, and he had someone supporting him. Michael Massey does everything by himself, so there's a lot of pressure to him. He's not only the one to blame for this whole thing, it's all the stewards that were involved with this race. And I'll elaborate the rest of it later. And as I said before, this race was quite good actually. I actually quite enjoyed it. So at the start, Lewis gets a better reaction than Max on the line and takes the lead. Norris goes wide, giving Perez P3. Lewis continues to lead and up until the chicane, where Verstappen makes a lunge down the inside and Hamilton cuts the chicane. And this is where the first error of the stewards is made, because Lewis wasn't told to give the position back to Max. Plus they said no investigation was necessary. I mean, the guy literally cut the chicane and gained an advantage. And I know there's people saying, oh, Max pushed Lewis off the track. But if you look here, Lewis left the door open. Max was entitled to make the move. Even if Hamilton had to swap positions, I still think he would have been able to catch up with Max. So we get to lap 20 and Perez is leading with old soft tyres and is yet to make a pit stop. But Hamilton is behind him with fresher tyres, so he's obviously going to be quicker. However, Checo begins to perform miracles by beautifully defending from Hamilton. This was perhaps the biggest highlight of the whole race, since both drivers kept it clean and Sergio played the team game by slowing Hamilton down and closing the gap between him and Verstappen from 8 seconds to 1 second over the course of one lap. That's insane to see. I really hope next year Red Bull could allow Checo to be a world title contender, because I would love to see that man win a world championship. Nothing else really happens, with only Russell, Giovinazzi and Raikkonen suffering mechanical failures, which sucks for the two Alfa Romeo drivers, as it was their last races in F1. And at this point, Lewis has built a 12-second gap to Max, so the only way those two could stay close is with a...
Oh no! Nicholas Latifi has crashed, and I think that is at turn 14. Red Bull car, yes it is.
Box. Negative.
This is where the chaos begins. Latifi crashing causes a safety car, and Hamilton is pissed off because that 12-second gap he built from Max isn't going to mean anything, since in safety car situations the pack is punched up, ready for green flag conditions, and Max pitting into soft tyres will mean that the Red Bull will be faster. Now, a lot of people mentioned how Lewis could have boxed, but Mercedes didn't want to take this risk, as it would have meant they would have lost track position to Verstappen. But here's the thing, there are 5 laps cars between both title contenders, and usually they are allowed to overtake the safety car to unlap themselves. However, the race director informs that lapped cars are not allowed to overtake the safety car. This would be bad for Max, as by the time they go racing again, he would have to go through all of them, and by the time he does, he wouldn't be able to reach Hamilton. But later on, the race director announces that lapped cars between Lewis and Max are allowed to overtake the safety car, which breaks the rule in the regulations as all lapped cars are meant to overtake the safety car, not a select few. Alongside that, the safety car is meant to do one more lap. Instead, they bring in straight away, which breaks another rule. Because of this, Max and Lewis are close together for a one-lap showdown, and Toto Wolff is begging to Michael Massey to not go ahead with the race.
Michael, this isn't right.
The final lap starts, Hamilton leads from Verstappen, and when they go into the first hairpin, Max makes a lunge down the inside and takes the lead of the race. He also weaves on the straight just to break the slipstream from Hamilton. They go into the chicane, and then Toto Wolff becomes a meme.
No, Michael, no, Michael, that was so not right.
They go into the next straight. Hamilton has a huge slipstream. He goes side by side with Max Verstappen. They almost make contact, but Verstappen has the inside line into the hairpin and runs away with the victory alongside with the championship. The Dutch fans have an absolute field day, and despite it being very controversial and seem as orchestrated, I actually quite enjoyed that last lap. You know, it pretty much was a perfect ending for this whole season. Though the season was already dramatic, this amplified it, you know. As expected, immediately after the race, Mercedes launched an appeal as they believed that the FIA stewards broke their own rules and that Lewis Hamilton was robbed of an 8th world title. Basically, since Max and Lewis were tied on points, the championship depended on who finished ahead of the other in the race, in which Max did. Now, the reason why Mercedes did this, and just like other F1 fans who didn't accept the result, and Lewis Hamilton fans, their case is saying that it was an unfair advantage. Hamilton had 40-year-old hard tyres compared to Verstappen's newer tyres, so Verstappen was going to be quicker. And, well, even though Hamilton was still able to catch up to Max on the straights because the Mercedes is a very quick car, it's the corners where he would have lost to Max. Hence why Mercedes tried to push this appeal, because of the unfair advantage Max had and the sudden change of rules where 5 lapped cars were allowed to unlap. If it were all lapped cars as the regulations suggest, the race would have ended under a safety car. Now, ideally, what they should have done is allowed lapped cars to overtake earlier. Then we would have had a much fairer last lap showdown. Or perhaps red flag the session, allowing everyone to change to the soft tyre so Max and Lewis could be on an equal playing field. They did this in Baku, why not here? This whole thing has sparked a debate online, with one side saying that Max was gifted the world title and that Lewis was robbed, the other side saying that Max won it fair and square. It has also caused a lot of hatred towards the FIA, which is understandable because they did mess up. But what isn't okay is sending hate towards Max Verstappen and Nicholas Latifi. Just to set things straight, first, Latifi had no involvement with this whole FIA safety car debacle. Sure, he did crash, causing the inevitable rigged last lap, but he didn't do this on purpose. It was a mistake he made. What makes this even worse is that loads of people harassed him on his social media posts where he was saying goodbye to George Russell, which he later had to delete because of the amount of hate he was getting. And not just that, they also sent the hate to his girlfriend as well. It's very disgraceful to see behaviour like this. Like, how incredibly sad do you have to be to send hate to someone who's more successful than you? Like, the guy didn't do it on purpose, and he even apologised as well. And I bet you wouldn't even survive 1 minute in a Formula 1 car before crashing into a wall. I mean, to be fair, that is kind of harsh, but you know what I mean. Secondly, Max doesn't deserve the hate. Like, even though the FIA's incompetence did benefit him, he wasn't going to slow down and let Lewis win. Of course not. There was a world championship on the line. Now, I'm going to voice my opinion on this, and as much as it is going to sound controversial, I feel like Max Verstappen deserved the world championship. Like, all season, he's been extremely consistent. He did have bad luck, but even still, he finished in first and second if you exclude all the DNFs he had. But yeah, he's been really good this season. That doesn't mean that he deserved to win in that fashion. No, I feel like they should have red flagged it. But that doesn't mean I don't feel bad for Lewis. Of course I feel bad, you know. He was on his way to win his 8th world title, but to lose in that fashion must really suck, especially when he was going to break the world record. But there is some sort of reassurance. He has 7 world titles, and he has the most pole positions and race wins than any Formula 1 driver ever. And I feel like next year he'll come back strong, and I would like to see him win his 8th world title, unless he's battling with Sergio Perez, any Ferrari or Haas. Also, this whole thing has kind of overshadowed what Max has achieved, because he's the first non-Mercedes driver since 2013 in this whole hybrid era who's won a world championship. Sebastian Vettel tried to get the championship in 2017, but
World champion in 2017.
okay, can he make it right in 2018? The only time Lewis has been beaten by someone was in 2016 by his teammate Nico Rosberg, who then immediately announced his retirement afterwards. Overall, this race has left a bad taste in Formula 1 fans. I feel like some people might not watch the sport ever again because of what happened. And some new fans who watched the race, because this was quite a huge event. Some people were confused. Some people feel like Lewis Hamilton was robbed. Like, it got to the point where the hashtag I stand with Lewis Hamilton was trending all over social media. I feel like what they need to do is perhaps change the race director and reform the whole stewardships and have much more clear set rules and regulations so people can easily follow them. And, you know, like Jeremy Clarkson said, you know, after the race, he felt bad for Lewis and he said that we should get rid of the stewards. And to be honest, I don't blame him because of the amount of silly and unnecessary decisions they've made this year. And I feel like the Abu Dhabi GP was the peak of steward stupidity. So yeah, that is the Abu Dhabi GP, and I feel like I'm waffling on too much because I usually don't make really long videos. And yeah, I feel like this race is going to be known for a long time as the most controversial Formula 1 race to ever happened. Some people, like Max fans, will find this as a good race. Lewis fans will hate it, and I feel like from what I've seen, I feel like some neutral fans are quite upset of what they saw. But I guess in a positive way, if we look at it this way, at least Formula 1 has a new world champion who isn't Lewis Hamilton or a Mercedes driver. We've got, you know, some fresh blood. I guess that's a good way to take it to some extent. But yeah, I guess that wasn't really a good, that wasn't really a good image for Formula 1. This race is kind of, what do you call it? It's kind of damaged the image of Formula 1, and I feel like F1, well, not really F1, but the FIA needs to respond, because Formula 1 is like the pinnacle of motorsport. It's one of the most popular motorsports in the world. And to see something like this happen is it's very embarrassing, really. But yeah, I've also seen this opinion going around saying Max Verstappen deserved the world championship, but Lewis Hamilton deserved the race win. I do agree with that opinion, but at the same time, it could be argued that that last race decided on who was going to win the world championship. So yeah, that is pretty much it of the video. I'm really sorry for uploading this like over a week late. I didn't really know what to say because of the race being so overwhelming, especially at the end. And I just had to process in what I saw and had to look at different people's opinions to form an opinion. But yeah. Also, Carlos Sainz finished P3 in the race and got another podium.